Captain Sarah Chen had spent her entire career avoiding wars. As commander of the colony ship New Harmony, she had led 15,000 souls across the void to establish humanity's first truly pacifist settlement on Kepler 442b. For 8 years, they had built something beautiful, a society without weapons, without armies, without the endless cycle of violence that had plagued Earth for millennia. When the hegemony ships first appeared in their system, Sarah's response had been immediate and unwavering: surrender. "We offer no resistance," she had transmitted to the massive dreadnoughts that darkened their sky. "We are a peaceful settlement. We have no weapons, no military capabilities. We ask only to be left in peace." The hegemony commander, a towering insectoid creature called Thrixtal, had found their pacifism amusing. Through the translation matrix, his mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his species. How refreshing! A human colony that understands its place in the natural order. For 3 months, the occupation had been bearable. The hegemony demanded tribute food, manufactured goods, mineral extraction quotas, but they left the colonists largely alone. Sarah watched her people adapt with the same quiet resilience that had brought them across the stars. They met their quotas, kept their heads down, and waited for the aliens to move on to more profitable worlds. Dr. James Morrison, the colony's head of agriculture, had been the first to raise concerns. "They're taking 40% of our food production," he told Sarah during one of their weekly council meetings. "We can manage for now, but next winter, we'll find a way," Sarah replied, the same words she'd been repeating for weeks. "Violence only breeds more violence. We chose a different path." The children made it easier to remember why they'd chosen that path. 8-year-old Maya Patel still brought flowers to the hegemony guards, her gap-toothed smile unchanged despite the occupation. 12-year-old Marcus Webb taught himself to speak enough of the alien language to say good morning to the soldiers who patrolled their streets. The kids adapted faster than the adults, treating the towering insectoids like exotic neighbors rather than conquerors. Sarah had convinced herself they could endure anything, as long as they stayed true to their principles. Then the hegemony announced the selection. "Your species shows promise," Thrixtal informed the assembled colonists, his translated voice echoing across the town square. "The hegemony requires soldiers for our expansion campaigns. We will select the strongest of your young to join our auxiliary forces." Sarah stepped forward, her hands trembling but her voice steady. "These are children. They're not soldiers. They're barely old enough to understand what war means." "They will learn," Thrixtal replied. "The selection begins tomorrow. We require 200 juveniles between the ages of 12 and 16. That night, Sarah stood on her apartment balcony, watching hegemony transports land in the colony's central plaza. She thought of Marcus Webb, who wanted to be a xenobiologist. Of Lisa Chen, no relation, despite the name, who painted watercolors of alien sunsets. Of David Kowalski, who built impossible towers out of scrap metal and dreams. 200 children. Nearly half their teenagers. "We could run," Dr. Morrison suggested during the emergency council meeting. "Take the kids into the forest, hide in the mountain caves until they leave." "They'd hunt us down," replied Elena Vasquez, their chief engineer. "And then they'd take twice as many as punishment." "What about resistance?" asked Thomas Kumar, one of their few former military personnel. "I know we swore off violence, but Sarah, they're taking our children." Sarah had stared at him for a long moment. "Violence only breeds more violence," she whispered, but the words felt hollow now. The selection began at dawn. Hegemony soldiers moved through the residential districts with practiced efficiency, herding terrified teenagers toward the transports. Sarah watched from her window as Maya Patel's older brother was pulled from his family's arms, as Marcus Webb looked back at his parents one last time before disappearing into the alien ship's hold. That's when she saw them bring out the compliance rods. The devices were designed to ensure cooperation neural disruptors that caused excruciating pain without permanent damage. When 15-year-old Anna Delacroix tried to run back to her mother, the hegemony soldier activated his rod without hesitation. The girl's scream cut through the morning air like a blade through silk. Sarah was running before she realized she had moved. Her apartment door slammed against the wall as she burst through, her feet carrying her down 3 flights of stairs and into the street. She reached Anna just as the soldier raised his compliance rod again. "Stop," she said, placing herself between the alien and the child. The soldier's compound eyes fixed on her with insectoid indifference. "Move aside, human. The juvenile must be processed." "No," Sarah replied, and the word felt like stepping off a cliff. "I won't let you hurt her." The compliance rod's energy discharge hit her full in the chest. Pain, unlike anything she had ever experienced, tore through her nervous system, dropping her to her knees. Through her agony, she heard Anna sobbing, heard other children crying out as more soldiers activated their weapons. That's when Thomas Kumar appeared at her side, his old military sidearm in his hands, a weapon he'd smuggled aboard New Harmony 8 years ago and never used. The energy bolt took the hegemony soldier in the center of his thorax, dropping him instantly. "So much for pacifism," Thomas muttered, helping Sarah to her feet. More weapons appeared as if by magic. Dr. Morrison emerged from his lab, carrying improvised explosive devices. Elena Vasquez led a team armed with repurposed mining equipment. Even some of the teenagers broke free and grabbed weapons from fallen hegemony soldiers. Sarah looked around at her peaceful colonists, now transformed into something she barely recognized. 8 years of building a better way, shattered in minutes by the simple act of threatening their children. "We tried to be better than this," she said to Thomas, as plasma bolts began flying across the plaza. "We were better than this," he replied, firing at a hegemony transport, until they crossed the line. The battle for New Harmony lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 2/3 of the hegemony occupation force was dead, their ships burning wrecks in the colony's fields. Sarah stood in the ruins of her town square, surrounded by her people, no longer pacifists, no longer innocent, but still alive, still free. Marcus Webb found her there as the sun set, his young face aged by what he'd seen. "What happens now, Captain?" he asked. Sarah looked up at the stars, where more hegemony ships would surely come. "Now we fight," she said quietly. "Not because we want to, but because we have to." They crossed the line. She had spent her entire career avoiding wars. But some lines, once crossed, could never be uncrossed.